This Meshuggah broadcast is brought to you, well, actually, it's brought to you by me, Dr. Matthew G. Ferris, the Back Doctor. My office is located off of Linden Road in the Stonebridge Professional Center for a chiropractic treatment you can't refuse. My phone number, area code 810-233-0699.
This is the Major Boondoggle, Boone at Noon, brought to you by Sunrise Coast Cigar Lounge on Miller Road in the Valley Plaza. Also brought to you by STS Recycling, E-Waste Recyclers, 810-496-3881. Well, Doc, who do we have today down here?
A friend of mine, Ryan Bellows, invited him down to talk with us about the Writers Circle in Flint, Michigan, a group of writers that support one another, encourage one another in their craft.
It's very interesting. I guess he's an author, I'm supposing.
I'm not yet published, but I am an author.
You're a writer.
I'm a writer, yes.
Okay.
And you do prose, you do poetry, you do term papers.
Yeah, I've done all kinds of writing.
What's your favorite thing to tinker with in ink?
I really enjoy poetry the most, I think, because it's quick and easy to get your ideas down and complete something.
What type of poetry are you doing? Free verse or haiku? I don't know enough to ask a proper educated question.
I like haiku. Those are fun to write, arranging the syllables. But I'd say just more of a free verse. I don't follow any particular structure or whatnot.
And you say it's quick and easy. You can just write what you feel.
Yeah, like if I have a topic that comes to mind, I'll jot a few lines down, maybe I'll get 10 or 15 lines, and then I got a poem, and then I'll set it aside and come back and edit it later.
Very good. I've heard that's the case with a lot of creative writing, or any writing. Just get it down on paper, worry about it later.
Yeah.
Are there any particular topics, a muse of some sort, anything that's near and dear to your heart that you come back to again and again?
I've written poems about just about any old thing, but I think a lot of my poems tend to reflect my personal struggles or situation, any that I may be encountering at the moment. That's usually the source of my inspiration.
There's some elements of truth about your experience in the world.
Oh, definitely. They're very much like observations of life in many cases.
Can you just sit quietly on a summer's day and look at a dandelion and write a poem?
Sometimes it'll just pop in my head when I'm sitting there. If I'm lucky enough, I have a little notebook in my pocket that I can
If you're
check.
lucky enough. I'm surprised that you would, as a poet, be somewhere without a piece of paper and a pencil.
I used to be better at keeping a little notebook in my back pocket, but I actually haven't done that.
Have you ever had a frustration where you've got a poem in your mind or writing segment in your mind, and then when you get to the paper and the pen, it's gone?
Yes, I've experienced that, definitely. A lot of times I have a great idea for a poem and I go to jot it down on paper and I get a few lines and I realize it's not heading anywhere. Even though it's a good topic, I don't seem to have it flow through me.
Is that a writer's block of some sort?
Maybe a variation of a writer's block, but
Okay.
I think writer's block mostly in general is when you just can't think of anything. You
The
can't
well
even
dries
think,
up.
You can't think of a topic. Nothing you pursue. It seems to be going anywhere.
It's not going to happen today.
Yeah, like you'd rather be doing your laundry and getting that out of the way while you don't have any productive writing in you.
When I've been unproductive, I've kind of anguished about it. If I could focus on my laundry, I'd be happy.
I know when I first started going back to college, started at U of M Flint, I had a writing assignment for one of my classes. And I spent an entire Saturday, couldn't pull anything out of my hat to get started with, and then
Wrong hat, Bullwinkle.
Finally, somewhere in the middle of the night, it just jumped up and jotted down what I needed, and I was good to go.
I'm glad there was paper and pencil in the middle of the night. Something to scratch. So tell the Major and I a little bit about the Writers Circle, what you do with them.
Well, the Writers Circle is basically a writers group that I got going through the Creative Alliance back in 2005. We're just a loosely organized group of writers, more or less a meeting place where local writers can collaborate, bounce ideas off each other, offer mutual support, and that sort of thing.
Do you do a little formal reading for one another?
Usually the members that come to the meetings will read a piece of writing that they've been working on or have written, and then we'll discuss it.
You discuss it. It's not a critique. It's
well, not necessarily. Like early in the Writers Circle, when we first started back in, say, 2005 through like 2007, we very much worked on the work and critiqued each other pretty heavily.
That can be pretty brutal.
Oh, it was. It's a unique circumstance when you can get a group of writers all together in one place and get them along.
With this group of people, are they all writing about the similar type of genre, or do you have any technical writers or any people who might work themselves into the world of writing, let's say, television sitcom type relation?
Well, we do have Eric Hines came around quite a bit, or a few times through the last summer. He's more of a screenwriter, like he writes scripts for movies. And then there's Gary Flynn, who's more of a nonfiction writer. He writes more like historical nonfiction type
He's
stuff.
actually a personal friend of mine.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, Gary Flynn. As a matter of fact, I believe next week he'll be on the Boondoggle Report.
Nice.
On WKUF from 4 to 7 p.m.
So how good of a fit is it for you? The Writers Circle has evolved since its beginning. I think you said 2005 or 2006. And it's evolved from critique to something else?
Right. Well, we met for about 3 years or so when we first started, and then I kind of stepped away from the group for a little while to deal with some personal things, and they eventually sort of formed an online group that didn't meet in person, and then that sort of fizzled out. And then like a year or two later, I got it started up again with a friend of mine who was a little nervous about the critiquing, so I says, why don't we just make it a general meeting place where we can share the work and be more loose about it, but still be open to critiquing if somebody would suggest it.
If it's a critiquing, do people take the critiquing as a offense sometimes?
There are circumstances where you try to give somebody some good feedback, that may not put their poem in a positive light or whatnot, where you show there's room for improvement, and they may have a little dissonance about it or whatnot, but generally people are pretty open and open to criticism and actually using it to better the work.
Okay, that was kind of one of my thoughts when how that happens, because sometimes when somebody writes something, they may be very one-sided, passionate about it. When you go into an environment where people are going to critique it, they may take offense to it, opposed to seeing the creative input.
Sometimes, in my own little bits of writing, critiques have been painful. I haven't liked critiques sometimes.
Oh, I very much have experienced that as a writer. You send somebody for example, I have a friend that sometimes proofreads some of the college papers I got, and I'll think I got a great paper, and I'll send it to her, and I'll get all hacked up, and I realize I got all this more work to do on it. It's a little frustrating.
With the college papers, it's not free verse. Punctuation counts, and that's hurt my feelings when professors have said, well, you need a semicolon here and do this and this. Style sort of stuff. But I imagine in the Writers Circle, you're not talking about style all the time.
No, not really focused so much on style. I probably try to just give it a vibe of where people are free to open to share whatever ideas they have in whatever way they've arranged, and just kind of support the fact that they're writing and making an effort, you know. And if there's little tidbits of information you can offer along the way.
Any
And then
funny stories that come out of Writers Circle from your own work, or?
there's been lots of funny moments. You know, a lot of times we'll be just having a silly conversation about something that may not even have anything to do with writing, and we'll get to cracking up about it.
Perhaps you could do an entire meeting in Pig Latin.
That would be something.
That would be very complicated for the people who don't speak Pig Latin.
Like
Who doesn't?
myself,
You don't speak Pig
I
Latin?
do not.
Earthquake again.
Earthquake.
I don't get Pig Latin.
Ixnay.
Yeah, well,
I don't know what that is.
I'm sure there's a show for it, but
My mother used to speak Pig Latin, but she never quite taught me how to do it. I don't think she wanted me going around talking like that all the time.
Or she didn't want you to know what she was saying.
Yeah, so she could speak in code around me. when I-
That may be more like my parents. You're too young to know that, son.
I think Pig Latin died.
Maybe it went with the Roman Empire decline and fall. So there's been lots of levity, lots of light moments at the Writers Circle. How many members usually get together on a monthly basis?
We usually meet once a week when we're meeting. Right now, currently, we're on hiatus till May. But
Okay.
you know, we've had like 15 people at a time at a meeting, and but most frequently, at least the way it's been, it's usually about 4 or 5 writers at a time.
That's pretty much the core of the group, or do the 4 or 5 writers change from week to week,
Well,
month to month?
There's a core of people that are always keeping in touch with me in regards to it and making it periodically to meetings.
So
And then we have newcomers that'll come visit, stick around for a few meetings, share some things that they're writing, and then they just get busy with what else they're doing.
Are some of you dashing notes to one another all the time on the internet, talking about what projects you're into?
Occasionally, yes.
All in all, this is a very encouraging situation for writers.
Has
Right.
anybody ever tried to televise this?
No, it's never been televised. We do have, actually, we do a monthly open mic night, or a bi-monthly open mic night called Support Your Local Poet, and
Where's that?
we usually have it at Churchill's on Saturday, the first Saturday of the month, and
What
we do
time?
in coordination with Michael A. and then Wayback Machine.
Do you guys do it on the same time?
We usually start at 9 p.m. and we usually run till like 10:30, and then Michael comes in with his DJ. Last time we had a guest musician that came and played after the poets that were done.
That sounds like a good time.
Do you have any guest poets? Anybody?
Famous?
We don't tend to have guest poets. We try to encourage an environment where everyone's viewed as an equal. So we don't really celebrate one particular. Like if we do highlight somebody, it's generally a guest musician.
It's nice to know that writing poetry hasn't somehow declined in the class struggle.
I have a question. It's burning in my head.
Uh-oh.
Oh, all right. Tell me about your hat.
Oh, this hat. It's just a winter hat that I bought, and
Yeah, but why did you buy it?
because it had green in it and it sort of matched my coat, and it was there when I saw it, and I realized I needed a hat, so I spent the $12.
Yeah, but it doesn't. Did it click to you at all that it seems to fit your personality as an extension item that says, I am sort of a scholar, I am sort of a poet, I am an open-minded, I am an equal? Because your hat, to the listeners, this is a knit hat. It's a very dark green, and it looks something like you would see. What would you say?
A hippie or a beatnik?
I was thinking further older.
It's the way I roll it up, because it's really just a winter hat, but I rolled the brim up like that.
Is it
It's
cotton
got a
or
neat
wool?
kinda
Looks
look.
like
I didn't do that on purpose, but it did sort of catch my eye, and I thought, I'll spend that $12. I need a hat.
Yeah, it reminds me of an old photo I saw of something called Populus, and it was Greeks were wearing hats like that, and they were like Greek
you can't
scholars.
see me shrugging my shoulders.
I
if
know you're
listening.
lost, but
Not completely.
The scholar. I wish I could remember who it was, but somebody in the Olympus photo or something like that. But the headpiece, the goatee, from 10 feet away, I feel that you put stuff on paper.
Oh, thanks.
I-
I'll keep wearing it.
Don't do it in July.
Yeah. When I was younger, I used to wear a winter hat sometimes when it was warm, and people thought it was absolutely absurd.
When I was a little boy, I had a coat rack, a hat rack full of hats, and I would dress up on and off all day long and drive my mother and others crazy. But I never had a hat like that quite.
Right.
So with no famous persons going in, has anybody become famous being there?
Not exactly, but like say the earlier group of the Writers Circle, like I was saying, we worked on the work a lot more intently. Chris Ringler was a big part of it originally, and he's published quite a great deal of his own books. Maybe not making a great deal of money, but he's getting his work out
He's
there.
out there.
There was another girl, Sarah Carson, that came around towards the end of our first run, and she's now a poetry professor in Chicago and has a book deal lined up. It's not been published yet.
Very nice.
So I guess Sarah's probably accomplished the most. And then, of course, there's Nick Custer. When we met him, he wasn't even a poet yet, and we just dragged him into a meeting, and now he's busy in the community. He's putting together a book of anthology of local poets.
I own several pieces of Nick's.
His chapbooks,
Yeah,
They're
absolutely.
great little chapbooks.
What does from the minute the meeting starts, give our audience a sort of an agenda
How's it go? One,
for their
two, three.
head?
Well, generally when, in the beginning, like everyone's just sort of arriving and we're making small talk and whatever. And then once we realize we have our group for the night, we'll start sharing poetry.
Just standing up with a microphone?
No, we just sit around a table and read from our chairs. So nobody is really highlighted, and we just kind of sit in a circle. And then, the person will read their poem, and then we kind of go in a circle and comment if we have comments, and then the next person goes, and so on.
And you
so
always
forth.
do this at Churchill's, it was?
Well, we were meeting on Thursday nights at Churchill's for a while. I'm hoping to do that again this fall, but the last year we were actually meeting back at Pages, and I was hoping to get back to the format where we were more working on the work and critiquing more, but I got a lot less turnout, I think partially because it was earlier in the day. We had to accommodate their hours. So
The day job thing.
Yeah.
So what time of day do you normally meet? When
Well, at the Churchill's meetings, we meet at 7 p.m. It's more of like an early evening kind of a thing.
Understood.
And then at Pages, when we meet to critique, it's more of like a late day, like just people stopping by after they get out of work.
5,
or
6.
5 o'clock, about 5 o'clock usually.
So let me see if I understand this. You'll meet at Pages for your weekly meetings, and then once a month you're at Churchill's.
Well, bi-monthly we're at Churchill's for the Support Your Local Poet open mic.
Got
When the Writers Circle is actually meeting, we'll meet weekly on Thursdays at 7.
Is there a website that I can look the stuff up on?
There is not a website for the Writers Circle. There is a Facebook page for the Writers Circle, like Writers without, it has no apostrophe in the writers.
So it's right. Okay. So how would if I'm gonna type this in and friend it?
You would just type Writers Circle in the search bar, and then you'd like the page.
Is there
and
like a
all that.
million of them that are gonna come up?
There are some others. Chances are you might have some friends in the group, so it'll highlight
Actually,
that.
yeah, I do because Gary Flynn's in
There isn't actually a Facebook group I started called Writers Helping Writers Flint that you can join if you're a local writer and would like to try to integrate yourself into the writers community.
That's really sweet. You're listening to the Major Boondoggle Report, the Boon at Noon, brought to you by WKUF-LP Flint 94.3 FM, made possible by Sunrise Coast Cigar Lounge, located in the Valley Plaza on Miller Road, and STS, E-Waste Recyclers, 810-496-3881. I'm Major Boondoggle,
And I'm Dr. Jeff.
and we have a special guest still here with us.
Ryan Bellows with the Writers Circle. Aside from being a student, aside from organizing and writing with these people, and I know you've got your fingers in all sorts of fun things in Flint, I think perhaps you're a bit of an activist. And if you'd like to talk about what activism is for you, how that works out.
Well, I guess the extent of my activism would probably be the involvement at the Creative Alliance that I've had, working on community events, just trying to inspire more activity in our local arts community, have a fun community for our local college students and stuff like that to enjoy.
I think all of the artists and all the things, and there are many, many things going on in Flint, I think that this is ultimately going to be at center of what happens in Flint's Renaissance, and I believe that will happen.
Yeah, when we first got started, there was nothing going on downtown. There was one year they had a 4th of July carnival, and it was like a Scooby-Doo movie. It was like a haunted carnival where there
Nobody
was nobody
was there.
They had the rides going.
That wasn't too long ago.
That was about 5 years ago, maybe
Yeah.
6 years ago. So like since we started, they were looking to invest in the downtown area, and they didn't know if they should, but then they seen us doing what we were doing, and I think that kind of gave them a little motivation to go ahead and put in some of the restaurants and the different things they've been doing down there. But that's an indirect effect. We can't really take direct credit for that.
But that's an understandable thing, that people in support of one another would move about in a particular locale. That locale would grow and feed one another. What projects what projects are up on the slate in terms of
Well, currently I'm planning a bluegrass bazaar
okay.
at Kersley Park for June 7th, and I sort of picked the genre of bluegrass for its community building elements or possibilities. So it looks like a lot of our guests are going to be sort of embracing bluegrass rather than coming directly from the genre of bluegrass. So it's a bluegrass bazaar. It's not your typical bluegrass festival, or it won't be.
Bazaar is in a fair, not
Yeah, right.
Bazaar is in weird.
A bazaar. Well, a bazaar as in we're going to have tables, with vendors there with
Okay.
handmade items and things like that. But also bazaar as in it's just a little unusual.
It'll be unique for
unique.
Flint.
Yeah.
I thought there was for a while a bluegrass festival that happened at the public library and the cultural center for some years.
I'm not sure. Maybe that was the folk festival. I know they used to
It
have a
could be.
bluegrass festival. Michael Kelly at Mott Community College used to have a radio show, and he was highly involved in a bluegrass festival they used to have here, and they had like Bill Monroe and Doc Watson had come.
Wow, those are names I recognize. Yeah, that's blues or
Bluegrass.
Bluegrass. Okay.
Bluegrass. The twangy banjo. Like you either love it or you hate it.
Yeah, I love it. What are your hopes for this bazaar? What do you want to happen as a result?
Well, I think
Aside from some good fun.
a long-term goal really is to offer some improvement in the Kersley Park neighborhood, because it's really a rather blighted community, but it's so close to the cultural area. I think it deserves some focus. And
I
some
hope as
attention.
downtown and the cultural area expands, it sort of absorbs the Kersley Park area.
I always envision it as sort of a place where college students would find good housing if it was a safe community.
I think there are some college students who are creating co-ops in that neighborhood, some living situations that are
Correct.
Alternative to home owning. That seems very promising to me.
Yeah, the Peace Mob, they call them. They have a community garden over there, and they've got, I don't know, maybe up to a dozen different people that
They're
are all
doing
living in sort of a collective.
Some urban farming, some housing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't been in touch with anybody down there in a few years, but it sounded very promising last I spoke with people.
Yeah, there's a lot of very motivated and inspired people, and, just finding something productive in Flint to do together.
And your idea of having a bluegrass bazaar sounds very inspired, and I hope the goal of uniting people in that neighborhood becomes truth.
Thank you.
Sure, of course. of course. What else haven't I asked you want to tell us about?
Well, I am proud of school. You know, I'm going to be 40 on March 30th, and I'm still a college student. But
Happy birthday and go blue.
I love learning. I actually hold 2 degrees from Mott Community College,
Sweet.
Associate of Arts and General Studies, and then I'm working on my psychology degree from U of M Flint currently.
I just wish you the
Bachelor's.
best.
Thank you.
I doubt that any of that's going to be wasted ever. I hope you get to do some creative things at the school.
You know, studying psychology, I feel like the more insight I have into the human condition, the better my writing will be, essentially, if I'm conveying the human condition through my writing.
Before going on the air, we talked about statistics classes, and for me, that was not a creative endeavor. How about for you? Not so
not
creative?
a creative endeavor, but actually, you know, math kind of comes second nature to me. I don't necessarily enjoy it, but when I have to do it, I get through it pretty easily without a lot of struggle.
I have to take off my shoes and count my toes to get to 20 most of the time. A bit of a math phobe, but
Yeah.
I struggled through. If it comes second nature to you, bravo.
I think memorizing the formulas is the most difficult part. Working through them, I don't usually have a trouble with, but memorizing the formulas.
They're
is sort of-
pretty clear once you got them.
Yeah.
But getting them, it was difficult for me. So I want to thank you, Ryan, for coming down here and telling us what's happening at the heartbeat of Flint, the Chevrolet, the heartbeat of America.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Future success with the Writers Circle and everything else.
Oh, I do want to mention I do have the Writers Circle Poems Volume 1 and 2, which I'm hoping to publish in April, which is Poetry Month. It's a collection of poems that I wrote from the first round of the Writers Circle when we were doing the critiquing, and then another batch of poems from when we were meeting at Churchill's, just sharing the work with each other.
We're certainly going to get you and some others in your cohort back on the radio again.
Yeah, I'd like to
Sounds
do
good.
I'd like to do a multiple.
A group interview.
Yeah, I'd like to do a group interview, and maybe even just as a practice shot. Maybe televise one of your meetings, and see about that. Maybe float that to your group and see how they feel about it.
Okay. Probably this fall, if we start back up at Churchill's, it would be a good
That would be good.
place to start, because those are generally more larger and
Plenty of room.
more active meetings.
Right, that would be good. All right, well, this has been the Boone at Noon. I'm Major Boondoggle.
I'm Dr. Jeff. See you in the funny paper.
You've been listening to the Boone at Noon, brought to you by WKUF-LP Flint 94.3 FM, the campus of Kettering University, made possible by Sunrise Coast Cigar Lounge, located on Miller Road in the Valley Plaza, and STS E-Waste Recyclers, 810-496-3881.